come a long way since the garage.
Gotta say, it's fantastic.
Shut your fucking mouth!
So I recently saw the new Fantastic Four, and I'm kind of underwhelmed. First, let me get out of the way. Yes, this has spoilers. I know this is some crazy in-depth review. So this movie's not bad per se, but it has a lot of problems, and not the ones I was expecting, honestly. I had high hopes for this, especially after seeing, like, Thunderbolts. I didn't think it was going to be, like, a peak or, like, a masterpiece, but I thought it was going to be, fairly decent for, Marvel standards, or, like, pretty good for Marvel standards, rather. And don't get me wrong, this is miles better than the slop the MCU has been making this decade, but it's still pretty cliched and honestly at times kind of boring. I still like this movie. The overall aesthetic of it is pretty amazing, honestly. I like the retro future 60s aesthetic it has going. Honestly, I hope more superhero movies do it. It's peak. Another good thing about this movie is the effects and designs. They're pretty good for the most part. Galactus had a nice design, the Thing, obviously, everybody's been glazing it, and it's pretty friggin' good. It's honestly one of the best pure CGI character designs I've seen in a while. But, here's my first sort of nitpick, and that's with the Silver Surfer. I'm not really a fan of this design. Her having pupils and, irises is just odd. I feel like the whole point is, at least with the design, is my interpretation at least, that it's supposed to show how Galactus kind of stripped the Silver Surfer of their humanity, whether it's the male or female version. So it's just weird seeing her with pupils and irises, and even from, just a pure, design, even ignoring the symbolism. It just looks, really odd. Going back to the stuff I like about the movie, I like the overall tone. It's goofy and lighthearted, but not super self-aware and meta, which I feel like is something Marvel rarely ever does, especially now. Anytime Marvel wants to do goofy stuff, they always have to have, a million self-deprecating jokes, so it's nice to see this movie be sincere for once. Now, on to, my more major problems. I'll start off with the biggest one. I think even the people who love this movie can agree on. That's the amount of shit cut from this movie. Even ignoring the whole John Malkovich stuff, which, it would have been cool to see his character make it to the movie. It doesn't really affect the finished movie. You can't really tell it was even, cut out. Even ignoring that, I feel like there just had to have been shit cut from the Thing's, subplot, especially with the romance. There's this subplot in this movie with Ben and his love interest, and it's literally 2 scenes. It's so random, and it serves, zero, purpose, honestly. Either to, his character or even the overall plot. It's not even the scene is really that funny or heartwarming. It just seems so out of place, and it doesn't really have any payoff. Was Ben struggling with love or something? I feel like there might have been more to it, judging by this deleted scene where he goes on a dating show. I feel like there might have been sort of a greater plot to it, but instead we just get a 2-scene subplot. Kind of reminds me of the villager romance in the recent Minecraft movie, where it's just so short and just pointless. Speaking of Ben, in general, there's nothing to him in this movie. He has no type of emotional arc or anything at all. He's just kind of a random side character. He doesn't really do much, which just feels odd considering he's a main part of the Fantastic Four. There's this one scene where he looks at his old self, and then the TV shuts off and we see his new face in the reflection. Which, don't get me wrong, this shot is freaking really amazing looking, but it has almost no meaning to the greater context of the character or the plot of the film. I guess we're supposed to know he wishes he was normal again, but we don't really see it in any other way outside of this one shot, so it just feels out of place. In fact, in another scene, we see him use his powers to impress a group of kids, so it's not like he's that depressed about it. It seems like most of the time he's fine with it. Since I already addressed Ben, I might as well address the other 3 of the Fantastic Four. So I'll start off with Reed, where he's a similar issue where he doesn't really have that much character development, or even just normal characterization in this movie. With Ben, it's kind of excusable because, even though he's part of the team, in the context of the plot, he doesn't really have that much of a role. But with Reed, he's basically the leader calling the shots throughout the entirety of the movie, with the exception of Johnny and maybe Sue. He discovers Galactus, he creates a teleportation thing they use to teleport to Earth, and decides to use it. His son is the one who Galactus wants, and he's the one who immediately decides he's not giving him to Galactus. Even in the press scenes, he's mostly the one, making the shots and talking to everyone. Despite this, we know very little about him. How does he feel about having a son? Well, he seems excited, but he also seems scared about the world he's bringing him into, based on the whole crime tracking thing he had going. Do we get some type of explanation as to why he feels that way? Not really. We get a few lines of here and there, but nothing major, with the exception of a monologue where Reed talks to his son. But how he feels different, isolated from everyone, because of his kind of ultra, mathematical, analytical approach to everything. This kind of would have been a cool scene if we saw examples of this beforehand or after. We don't really get any scenes where we see Reed feel this way, or people treat him different, or he experiences some type of isolation. We never see anyone calling out Reed's odd behavior. He runs a science show and goes on talk shows, for fuck's sake, so he can't be that isolated and that disconnected from everyone. At least in the way he describes it to his son. This monologue honestly would have hit hard if we did see this, and it would have been, touching seeing him talking to his baby son about this, but we don't really get that. As for Sue's character, I don't really have any major complaints. I feel like her role in this movie is pretty perfect, where we get a balance of knowing about her character and what she does, in terms of the plot.
Now on to Johnny. Johnny's role in this movie is kind of odd. Everyone treats him like a sleazy kind of jackass character, but doesn't really act like that at all. He takes everything relatively seriously and just cracks a few jokes once in a while, which just kind of makes the other three and, the public kind of look like assholes for not taking him seriously. Even is the one to crack the Silver Surfer's language, causing him to be able to get to her emotionally, which ultimately leads to her turning on Galactus and making it so he doesn't have to sacrifice himself at the end. He's a good character, but his whole arc feels like it should have been for a sequel. Like in the first one, you should see him actually be an asshole and not want to take him seriously. And then in the second one, Reed and Ben take a back seat to him. And we get more of his development, like his arc in this movie.
Why is in the first movie Ben and Reed getting less spotlight than Johnny and the Silver Surfer? Now on to the only action scene in this movie where I can't really stand, and that's the end Galactus fight. First of all, what is this goofy bait and switch fake out to a literal god? Why did they consider this? They already had me kind of skeptical with the whole let's take the entire world and push it someplace else, but this is just getting a little too cheesy. Are they about to pull the Lego Earth cake and have the Hulk jump out of it? The part that really bothers me is why does Galactus come down, uses infrared or whatever vision to find the baby, and then immediately turn it off and doesn't use it again till the last scene where he's right there? What would they have done if he had it on the entire time or decided to turn it back on at any other point? Their entire plan would have been pointless. And the whole Reed standing there waiting for him to fall for it only to be disappointed when he doesn't, it's just too corny even for me. Also, the power scaling of him in this movie is just way too inconsistent. How could this motherfucker eat entire planets and shit, but Sue can solo him and hold him down and go toe-to-toe with him? He seemed like he was on demon timing the whole ship action scene. Then all of a sudden, all they need is Sue to hold him down and have the Silver Surfer fly into him. What? And they do this goofy fake out that scene, the type of shit you would expect in fucking G-Force or Jurassic Park 3. Incredibly outdated, and the baby just wakes her up like nobody was falling for that fake out that scene. Anyway, that's my little rant. I still think it's alright. Like a 6 out of 10, but I feel like it could have been better. New vids soon.